para lo pagan. 시작. Actually, chest. There you go. Attends. acercarlo con el número no va a ser la pantalla.
Oh, we got in the line.
Bro, why do y'all keep on coming?
Ahora sí, ya. Míreme.
No problem.
I'm on your ass. Like,
Entiendo la vuelta.
pause. Next block.
I don't like being rushed. If I'm getting rushed, I'm Shots. Ella.
Já cortou, é pra ser por você? Kommt doch rein!
Monday, Saturday, 10 a.m. same day.
मैं ना स्टैचू ऑफ लिबर्टी
Like any other day.
Hello, sushi. Did.
I know
Des fois justement, je vais sur des vidéos proches, et je pose
Quoi? Voilà, Empire State.
So I'm just going It's got a different.
So I think a safer bet was that.
Legally required to give you all of them.
Ai, isso tá São Paulo.
Good.
Isso é lixo. Mas tem skate e uma coisa.
It took a matter of time.
Have you saw Sherry? We can't make no.
Why can't I just look at it?
I think there's a section.
Oradan bir dilim
Да, така.
Just off.
Yo Herbie kay mo ka.
Vamos, que es nuestra. Adrián. No sé qué decidieron. Mike estaba indeciso. Porque es que una cosa corriendo para tener una cita para la cena. Y en media hora.
You want to charge your phone or is it full?
You want to try the sticky bag?
Can't help it. Ask the lion.
아, 그거 귀여워서?
Spits in my drink. She like spits in my drink. She probably don't even remember who we were.
Cherry chocolate.
Faut aller vite mon amour.
The weather's nice.
What else do you have? Cause this getting money shit is not gonna.
Yeah, but like it's not about
Saan ka ba po nang ginawa?
You hear what I said?
is it?
No new updates, no nothing.
Cypher was a big mine miner.
Voilà, léegi dina bon Espagne
The first.
We are gonna have dinner, but I still feel like doing it.
Nigga, I don't play. Like I told him, nigga, I make for it. What do you call it?
Jamie, like,
What?